Coming up, all your election results. And later, what those results mean for the future of Iowa.
Hawkeyes dish out double trouble in Carver Hawkeye Arena.
We're going to have one day of warmth before Iowa City gets chilly.
This is DITV News at 8:30. Good morning. We're live on the dailyiowan.com and KRUI 89.7 FM. I'm Julia Richards. The results are in, and we have all you need to know about the Iowa midterm election. We have your DITV political team throughout Iowa City to break down all you need to know about voting, party sweeps, and the biggest stories coming out of this midterm election. Iowa Republicans had a successful election last night, winning across the board from the Senate, House of Representatives, and governor. Incumbent Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds won the race against Democratic challenger Deidre DeGiere with a 58.4% of the vote. Since mid-October, Reynolds was predicted to win with 52% support from likely voters, according to a poll from the Des Moines Register. Incumbent Senator Chuck Grassley also took home a win against Democratic challenger Mike Franken. This will be Grassley's 8th term in office. Many Republican voters joined their elected candidates in watching these election results roll in. DITV reporter Abigail Kurten has more on what issues motivated them to head to the polls yesterday.
Last night was big for Iowa Republicans. Hundreds gathered at the Hilton in downtown Des Moines to watch election results pour in as the polls closed.
The energy tonight here from the Republican Watch Party crowd in downtown Des Moines has been absolutely electric tonight, especially when Governor Kim Reynolds and Senator Chuck Grassley announced their victory over their Democratic counterparts. As you can hear behind me, the crowd has been screaming, cheering, and applauding for all of their favorite candidates as votes continue to come in from across the state.
And though these voters support the same candidates, their reasons for voting red vary.
I want to see the results come in. And of course, I want to see the Republicans win so we can have a well-managed state in the future like we've had so far. I like principles of liberty, and definitely the Republicans are the best to represent that.
I think our economy is just crazy right now. Money is being spent very foolishly on many, many things.
Reynolds expressed excitement about what her next term will bring for Iowa.
Aren't you glad you live in the freedom-loving state of Iowa?
From downtown Des Moines, Abigail Kurten, DITV.
Thanks, Abigail. The Democratic Party had a tough night yesterday in Des Moines. DITV politics reporter Maura de Cicco is with us to share last night's highlights. Maura, what was the night like for Democratic candidates?
Well, Julia, the Democrats started off hopeful with many supporters turning out to the watch party at Hotel Fort Des Moines to show their pride. As the night went on, though, disappointment started to become present among these supporters.
And what upsets did Democrats experience?
It started out with their gubernatorial candidate, Deidre DeGiere, losing to Kim Reynolds, and then Franken losing to Grassley in the Senate later in the evening. It was hard for some supporters to keep the faith.
Every day out of the week, democracy is worth fighting for. Every day out of the week.
However, there were wins for some districts, and the party does feel hopeful for the future of America. They do not see this as a defeat, but an opportunity to take back Congress in the near future.
Your story isn't over, not by a long shot. Rest, regroup, keep building, and live to raise your voice to win another day.
No matter the political party, there are still questions for what these results mean for us in Iowa City.
Yes, Maura, and we are now with Liam Hollowith in the Daily Iowan newsroom to give us a breakdown on what these results mean for Iowa City residents. Liam, how does the balance of power in the Iowa State House and Senate affect Iowa City residents?
Yeah, so Iowa City residents can expect to see a lot coming out of the news cycle next January when the Iowa legislature comes back in session. Iowa Republicans have control of the Iowa House and Senate with a majority in both. And with control of the governor's seat, they're expected to enact a highly conservative agenda, including abortion rights, parental rights and education, among other conservative priorities here in this election cycle. And then Republicans are expected to keep control of all these seats, and these results might change as Lynn, Warren, and Des Moines County are still reporting. Back to you, Julia.
Thanks, Liam. On the ballot yesterday, Iowans got the chance to vote on a state constitutional amendment that would solidify the second federal amendment into Iowa law. DITV News reporter Reagan Wilson is live outside the Johnson County Courthouse to break down what this means. Reagan?
Thanks, Julia. That's right. Iowa Amendment 1, the right to keep and bear arms, was approved by the vote. The measure states that the right of Iowans to keep and bear arms shall not be violated and codifies the law as a fundamental right. The yes vote supported adding this right to the Iowa Constitution. Any and all restrictions of this right will be subject to strict scrutiny and is now required for any alleged violations of the right before a court. Strict scrutiny means that no law can be made that will restrict the sale or ownership of firearms unless absolutely necessary. Strict scrutiny is the highest level of judicial review used by the courts. It's typically very difficult for the laws to escape such a review by the courts. Back to you in the studio, Julia.
Thanks, Reagan. Marionette Miller Meeks and Christina Bohannon met again for the first House District Representative position. This district encloses 20 counties, including Johnson County, and was previously decided by a close race of 6 votes 2 years ago. Miller Meeks was able to win this rematch against Bohannon, but this time by a much larger margin. DITV News reporter Johnny Valtman has more on the race.
Marionette Miller Meeks and several of her closest supporters gathered at the River City Casino here in Davenport to await the results of the midterm election. Meanwhile, Christina Bohannon and her supporters watched from the big road in Iowa City. Bohannon started the night with a lead, but as more votes were counted, Meeks pulled closer.
Didn't bother me at all. You're always down when you start as a Republican. Every single election I've ever done, I've always been down. I was very confident that I would come to the lead. And that's because I was with people all the time.
When the totals were added up, Meeks turned a 6-vote margin into a 6-point win, winning every county in the district except Johnson County. Despite a second straight loss, Bohannon maintained optimism for the future.
The truth is there is no choice but to act. There is no direction but forward, and there's no way but together.
Bohannon will return to the University of Iowa to continue teaching in January, while Meeks will return to Washington to represent the district.
And my obligation to serve you. God bless Iowa. God bless America. Let's keep this victory going. Thank you so much.
Her goal is to make Southeast Iowa the best place to live, work, play, and raise a family. From Davenport, Iowa, Johnny Valtman, DITV.
Thanks, Johnny. Heading outside of Johnson County, Iowa consists of 4 congressional districts. A notable election came from Iowa's 2nd district, in which incumbent Ashley Hinson maintained her seat in Congress, defeating opponent Liz Mathis. DITV News reporter Wyatt Johnson has more on this race.
After a hard-fought battle within District 2, it was announced that Ashley Hinson would retain the position, defeating opponent Liz Mathis. The night started out strong for Mathis, taking a convincing lead over opponent Hinson in the early stages of the returns. However, it wasn't long before Hinson started to take control over rural Iowa and eventually the entire race.
So whether you supported me here tonight or didn't, I still work for you. I will pledge to continue to be transparent and accessible and come to hear your stories and take them to Washington, D.C., because that's what Iowans deserve.
The Marion native will serve her 2nd term in the position, hoping to act upon the issues she finds most pressing.
We need to unleash American energy to combat inflation, and we need to secure our southern border. So I promise to continue to fight for those priorities, because those are the priorities you told me are your priorities every single day.
Though Liz Mathis came up short in her run for Congress, she assured her supporters that this is just the beginning.
And I look forward to continue to do that hard work with all of you. So take tonight, you've earned it. Tomorrow we'll get back to work. Thank you.
From Iowa City, I'm Wyatt Johnson, DITV.
Thanks, Wyatt. In other House races, Republican Zach Nunn has won the election for Congress in House District 3 over his opponent, Cindy Axne. And Republican Randy Feenstra was re-elected for Congress in House District 4 over Ryan Melton. Now let's head back to Liam in the newsroom for more on what these House district seats mean. Liam?
All 4 Republicans claim victory as of this morning. However, Axne has not conceded her seat yet, with a small 2,000 vote margin between her and her opponent, Nunn in the lead. She is expected to ask for a recount of the election later this week. Miller Meeks also won her election, as stated, and does have 2 recounts currently pending in her district due to technical failures last night. However, it is important to note that Republicans are slated to take control of the U.S. House of Representatives, meaning a conservative agenda is likely to happen in the chamber. However, Democrats are also expected to keep the Senate, meaning we'll have a divided government and gridlock in Congress. Back to you, Julia.
Thanks, Liam. The highly contested 2022 midterm election across the country brought in shocking results early this morning. But control of both the U.S. Senate and the House remain unclear, as votes are still being counted, and both Democrats and Republicans are eagerly awaiting the final voter counts. Democrats have lost 2 seats so far in the House, and Republicans haven't gained or lost any yet. And as of early this morning, Democrats hold 46 seats in the Senate, and the Republicans hold 47. The Democrats will take control of the Senate with Vice President Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote if the Senate does result in a tie. Pennsylvania's newest Senate-elect John Fetterman flipped the seat from Republican to Democrat, a victory Democrats were excited about. And in the Midwest, Michigan voted to approve a constitutional right to abortion. This midterm election provides an insight into how citizens are viewing the Biden administration's efforts so far. Hot topics like inflation, crime, and COVID-19 are issues the administration has had in its first 2 years in office. Stay tuned later this week for more updates as final election results filter in. Ethan, it was a little chilly when I was out voting at the polls yesterday. Is Iowa City going to see these temperatures stick around?
Well, Julia, not quite. It looks like you're going to have to put away those fall jackets for at least today. Looking at a live shot of Iowa City, it is currently 54 degrees. Even though there will be cloud-filled skies, we will be coming across some not-so-typical warm November temperatures later today. There will be highs within the 70s, topping off at 72, while in the evening, temperatures are going to round off into the 60s. Thursday, we expect some thunderstorms with highs in the upper 60s and lows in the 30s. Friday morning's forecast calls for wind and low temperatures in the 20s with a high temperature of 37 degrees in the afternoon. We're going to see the cold weather move into our weekend with highs in the mid-30s on Saturday and Sunday, rising all the way up to 40 on Monday. Now looking outside Iowa, Tropical Storm Nicole is soon to be approaching Florida. The storm is expected to strengthen to a Category 1 hurricane before it makes landfall early Thursday morning just north of West Palm Beach. This storm is impacting more than expected as well. NASA has yet again delayed their lunar mission Artemis. The Artemis mission was originally supposed to launch on August 29th, but has since been delayed twice, with a new launch date scheduled for November 14th due to the tropical storm. Back to you, Julia.
Thanks, Ethan. This year's Election Day had a voter turnout of over 1,697,000 Iowans. This breaks general election turnout records for Iowa. DITV News Director Ashley Weil has more on why voters came out to the polls this year.
Because it's important, and it's our rights, and it's important that we, maintain that.
Many explained how a midterm election is especially important to vote in.
It's the local candidates that really make a difference in everyday life, and so you got to support those.
In terms of getting legislation passed, I think considering the state of abortion rights in our state and the Iowa Supreme Court's ruling recently, I think it's a good way for us to show who we support and what kind of change we're looking for in the state in the future.
Midterm elections typically see a lower voter turnout than presidential elections, but many people I spoke to said they know lots of people heading to the polls and voting this year.
I have noticed a lot of people voting.
Also, historically, young people are typically less likely to vote.
I think the young people should get out and vote because that determines your future. You know, what's going to happen 10 years from now, or you know, what's going on 10 years from now is how you vote today.
This election had multiple ways to vote, along with Election Day, day of in-person voting, including early voting, satellite locations, and mail-in ballots.
From the University of Iowa, Ashley Weil, DITV.
Thanks, Ashley. And at the polls, one Iowa town missed the opportunity to vote for the District 1 Lynn County Board of Supervisor race. Putnam Township, located southeast of Cedar Rapids, had an error on one of its 34 ballot styles. The Republican candidate running in the race, Mark Banowitz, noticed his name wasn't on his ballot when he went to vote. Lynn County Auditor Joel Miller said the error was caused by a failure to check a box in the ballot software. Kristen Running Marquette appears to have defeated Banowitz as of 12:27 this morning. However, it's likely the results will not be certified until next Tuesday and could possibly be challenged. Secretary of State Paul Pate said, quote, "This is a very serious oversight that has taken away the ability of voters to make their voice heard on who their next supervisor will be." The Secretary of State's office is investigating the situation. Though the age requirement to vote is 18 years old, some citizens of Coralville feel it's never too early to start teaching about exercising the right to vote. We're sending it back out to DITV News reporter Reagan Wilson for more.
Thanks, Julia. Yesterday, I was at the Children's Museum in Coralville at an event that was all about future voters.
A Good Citizen Day is just a way to familiarize kids with what it takes to be a good citizen, what it takes to use their voice to do what they think is right, and just introducing them to the importance of being part of a community bigger than themselves.
Really grateful that the students that we're working with had kind of shared that vision and the thought that we could make this a really special part of Election Day without being political, without trying to have some angle, except to say that this is important.
Very successful and brought in lots of future voters. From the Johnson County Courthouse, Reagan Wilson, DITV. Now let's toss it across Iowa City to DITV Sports Director Michael Merrick.
Thanks, Reagan. I'm live here at the Iowa Memorial Union, one of the early voting locations here on campus. And it was more than just the average students casting their ballots both early here and on Election Day throughout Iowa City. Hawkeye coaches urge their athletes to share their voice and get out to vote.
We do live in the greatest country, and one of the rights that we have that's so valuable is you get an opportunity to go vote. We live in a country where a lot of people have opinions, but don't really back it up with anything, so it's a chance to go back it up. And, if you have an opinion about something, go vote and, try to be part of the process.
Obviously been a unique time in our country's history with regard to political parties and the future, so you want them to be a part of it.
And we say this is one day where your opinion really matters. So go give everybody your opinion, and do that most importantly by casting a ballot.
It's not just the coaches encouraging others to use their right to vote, however. Many student athletes understand how impactful their ballots can truly be.
It means a lot, man. I think, every vote counts. Somebody may think that one vote may not count, but every vote counts. There's been some elections that have, been decided by maybe 6 votes, 5 votes. So everybody should definitely go. If you have the opportunity to, just your voice, your opinion, all of that definitely matters.
I voted last Wednesday. I did. I got in early. Yeah, I think it's important. It's a civic duty. It's good. Young people like the lowest voter turnout, so it's good to get out there and vote.
We have a voice to be able to make that heard, and he stresses nobody wants to hear you complain about anything if you aren't doing your part. So as long as you do your part, you're set up well. So.
Some sports, such as men's basketball, even gave Tuesday off to allow their athletes an opportunity to get to the polls. because in the end, exercising your right to vote transcends sports. From the Iowa Memorial Union, Michael Merrick, DITV Sports. Now let's send it back to the studio for DITV Sports with Max Von Grease.
Thanks, Michael. Hawkeye hoops are back. DITV Sports reporter Lucy Friedl has highlights of the impressive performances of both teams.
Hawkeye fans were treated to a doubleheader on Monday night here at Carver Hawkeye Arena as both the men and women's basketball team opened their seasons. The men took the court first, taking on Bethune-Cookman, where all 5 starters netted double figures. But it was junior Tony Perkins who led the way offensively for the Hawks with 16 points. Junior Chris Murray wasn't far behind with 14. The Hawks combined for 44 rebounds on the day, helping to give them an edge over the Wildcats and start their season off on the right foot.
I do think we have enough depth, enough shooting, enough handlers, enough shot makers, but most importantly, 25 assists. It's a group that understands how to win.
Following the men's win, the women took the court to look for their own 1-0 start. The women did just that, continuing the men's momentum into their match against Southern University, taking down the Jaguars 87-34. Junior Caitlin Clark led the Hawks with 20 points and 9 rebounds in 20 minutes of play. Fifth-year Monica Sonano and freshman Hannah Stelke both scored 10. All 13 Hawkeyes played and scored in the season opener.
I thought our bench play, was really solid tonight, and I'm excited about it because I just feel like we have a little more depth than we've ever had.
The women will travel to Des Moines to take on Duke on Thursday, while the men face North Carolina A&T in Iowa City on Friday. From Carver Hawkeye Arena, Lucy Friedl, DITV Sports.
Thanks, Lucy. And the Iowa football team has been heating up before the cool November season, and that comes as no surprise to those in the locker room. However, over the last few seasons, the Hawkeyes have gone undefeated in the month of November, and they look to continue that trend even with the shaky start to this season.
And I think that's where we realize that teams are defined is in November. Slip-ups in September and October, obviously, but we still have the opportunity to go out and make this thing right and really improve on what we've been working on. Those setbacks put you down. You just got to keep pushing and keep fighting, because, if you just give up, you're just going to throw the season away.
Hawkeyes continue to sit at second in the logjam that is the Big Ten West, but if Iowa can win out the rest of the season and receive a little help from others, the Hawkeyes could be packing for another trip to Indianapolis. And moving off of the field and onto the mat, Iowa men's wrestling starts this Sunday against Cal Baptist, and nobody's more excited to get back out there than wrestlers Abe Assad and Patrick Kennedy.
I've been really putting in the time, putting in that work in the off season, and there's no better place to show your wrestling skills than Carver Hawkeye Arena. Everybody knows that. So, we're going to be probably sold out crowd, damn near sold out, so it's going to be fun.
Both wrestlers are returning from last year and look to build off their challenging summer workouts. With these Hawkeyes getting healthy and learning under the wings of star veterans, this year has the makes of an incredible lineup.
I think Kemmer was definitely a guy that I've learned a lot through. He was the guy that really helped mentor me.
I feel like this summer was the most complete summer I've had as far as training goes. As far as injuries go, I was pretty healthy this summer, so I think that's something that's benefited me a lot.
Another person who can't wait for this season, Tom Brands. And he knows just how important the hard work put in by these young wrestlers can be.
If we can combine the work ethic and the constant striving to get better with that young talent, then we're going to be in pretty shape. It doesn't happen automatic, though.
With the contest quickly approaching, anticipation mounts to see the young wrestlers take over. On Sunday, Carver Hawkeye Arena will once again return to its electric atmosphere. From the University of Iowa, Aiden Wirtz, DITV Sports.
Be sure to check out the Daily Iowan website and tune back in Friday for the latest updates on everything Hawkeye sports. Back to you, Julia.
Thanks, Max. University of Iowa students with disabilities advocacy and awareness are working to create a cultural space on campus for disabled students. The organization is hosting a petition to get a cultural center on campus similar to the Center for Inclusive Academic Excellence.
So really, we don't want much. We just want a space where disabled students can come together on campus and have that community there.
We just don't have the capacity
on giving disabled students a space of their own.
Things. So what we're trying to do is Students with disabilities, we're looking at the mall and wondering maybe there's a way we can augment the student services space to have a social and cultural space there.
If you want to support the Disability Cultural Center, you can find a link to the petition on the Students with Disability Advocacy and Awareness website. Last month, the city of Iowa City changed the way people park. Parking meters downtown have switched over to a new app called Park Mobile. The goal of this change is to make parking more efficient for UI students and residents of Iowa City. The app allows drivers to pay through the app, but also charges a smaller transaction fee than other competition apps. Students are glad this change will make parking more accessible and flexible going forward. And on Monday, the Powerball lottery prize hit $1.9 billion, the highest amount in Powerball history. The drawing was delayed for hours due to security reasons, which resulted in the amount growing to over $2 billion. Mary Neubauer, Vice President of External Relations and Social Responsibility for Iowa Lottery, spoke on how difficult it really is to win the Powerball.
Odds of winning the jackpot in Powerball are about 1 in 292 point however many million, because that's how many ways you can combine all of the plays in the game or numbers in the game to make a play.
There was one ticket winner of the $2 billion from Southern California. However, the winner has yet to come forward and claim their prize. And People magazine announced their 2022 Sexiest Man Alive. Stephen Colbert announced during his taping of The Late Show that Chris Evans has been named this year's Sexiest Man Alive, succeeding Paul Rudd for the title. Evans, best known for his role as Captain America in the Avengers franchise, said that his mom would be proud. Thank you for tuning in to DITV News and listening to KRUI 89.7 FM. Be sure to head over to dailyiowan.com/DITV for all your latest news between Monday and Friday. For DITV News, I'm Julia Richards. Have a wonderful Wednesday.